back, bro. Y'all already see that I'm back, and I know y'all sitting here looking at me like, "Yo, Swag, where you been at? Why haven't you been uploading?" Right? So, long story short, like, I mean, YouTube, whatever, put a strike on the channel. Now I'm saying I couldn't upload for a whole week, so that's why I haven't been uploading. Like, and I can go more into detail on why I got a strike later on, because it's kind of a long video. You know what I'm saying? Because I know you guys been waiting for Scary Hour anyway, and on like Mr. Ballen, I dropped one for us already. So that's the first video I'm dropping. Like, I'm like after the strike ended, so we finna go ahead and check this. I've got to be careful on what we upload. It wasn't even a regular video; it was a short that I uploaded. But we can get into more detail with that later on, because this is a long video, man. So like, share, comment, and subscribe. We on the road to 100K. We've been going crazy on the channel. Again, we can get more into that, because like in the past week, I got over like 3,000 subs. So salute all the new subs, gang. I hope y'all enjoy these videos, man. But today, I'm like, we got a Mr. Ballen video, bro. Like, even I'm like Skeptics, I'm like, couldn't explain this shocking ending. So like, share, comment, subscribe, gang. We back with Scary Hour. I want to get this video to 200 likes, bro. 200 likes. Let's see if any of the new like 3,000 subscribers that's been subbed up to me hit the like button, bro. So hit the like button for your boy, man. Let's get into it. Let's get into it. Let's go.
Anyone thought they knew about.
Hold on, whoa. Hold on now.
Today, we're going to learn about a little boy in India who for a time seemed like he was the worst behaved kid on the planet. But the truth was, that little boy had a huge secret. And when his secret got out, it changed everything anyone thought they knew about this boy.
Oh, yeah.
And it prompted all these big-time college professors from major universities all around the world to personally fly to India to investigate this kid's claims, because the implications of what he was saying were massive. But before we get into that story, if you're a fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious delivered in story format, then you've come to the right place, because that's all we do, and we upload once a week. So, if that's of interest to you, please replace the like button's roll-on deodorant ball with a single clove of garlic. Also, please subscribe to our channel and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of our weekly uploads. Okay, let's get into today's story.
Let's go. It feels so good to be back. What like I've been in jail, bro? Well, technically I have been in jail. That's right. But goddamn, it's good to be back, y'all.
Late one afternoon in December of 1986, a woman named Shanti Singh was sitting on her bed cradling her toddler son, whose name was Titu, as he threw a huge temper tantrum. Titu, who was 3 years old, had already been throwing this tantrum for about 30 minutes at this point, and it didn't seem like anything Shanti did was getting him to calm down. In fact, honestly, it just seemed like Titu was getting worse and worse by the second. And Shanti knew her son's constant wailing must be annoying her neighbors in the little rural village in northern India where they lived. But again, Shanti just felt like really there was nothing she could do. After all, this was not a typical toddler tantrum. Titu was not throwing this tantrum because he lost a toy or was fighting with his siblings or something. No, the reality was Shanti and her husband had no idea why Titu was throwing this tantrum, because Titu threw these tantrums all the time for seemingly no reason, and nothing they did would get him to stop.
So do he got a condition or something that we need to know about? Know what I'm saying? What is it? Did you cry a lot? Like, I mean, what makes you? I don't know. I don't know. Like, again, like he's a kid. Know what I'm saying? I mean, a baby, like right now. So, I mean, who knows?
All the time for seemingly no reason, and nothing they did would get him to stop. He would just start throwing these crazy fits, and he would only stop when he was ready. Now, Shanti and her husband had taken Titu to the local doctor, and he'd been examined, and the doctor said, look, I think your son's just fine. I can't find anything wrong with him. So whatever's causing him to be so upset, it's got to be psychological. Shanti grabbed her son and tried to give him a hug and kiss to get him to calm down. But as she did that, Titu turned around and tried to hit her in the face and kicked her and punched her. And so Shanti had to kind of fall back on the bed. And Titu, at this point, who's still throwing this huge tantrum, he leapt off the bed and ran out of the room.
And we all like threw tantrums as kids when we were younger, you know what I'm saying? But we always had a reason. Now they saying that this didn't he like this was just like randomly happened in their household. So it's kind of like I mean, it got to be like, like a disorder or something, maybe. I don't
Titu,
know.
at this point, who's still throwing this huge tantrum, he leapt off the bed and ran out of the room. Now, Shanti had already sent the rest of her family, her kids, her husband, outside to wait out this current Titu tantrum. And so for a second, Shanti thought about just laying on the bed and letting her crazy toddler just kind of run around the house until he was done throwing this tantrum. But as Shanti was laying there on the bed, practically crying from frustration, she heard a plate break in the kitchen. And so she jumped up and ran into the kitchen, and there was Titu looking down at the ground where there was a shattered plate on the ground. Clearly, Titu had smashed it on purpose. And so as furious as Shanti was, she suddenly realized that, nothing she could do was going to get this kid to stop. And so right now, the only thing she could do was just put him in a safe place where he couldn't hurt other people or himself or damage anything else. And so Shanti, trying to be as calm as possible, walked up to Titu, who's still throwing this tantrum and swinging at her as she's coming near him. And she grabbed him, she turned him around so he couldn't kick her or punch her. She put him into his room and then shut the door. And then she sat down in the hallway with her back up against the door to keep it shut. And then as Titu, inside the room, began banging on the door and trying to open it, Shanti's sitting there anchoring the door, and she's just praying that her son's gonna calm down soon. And then at some point, Shanti heard her son start to say something that typically signaled the end of a tantrum. Titu, in the bedroom, began saying the word Shurshverma, which actually was a nonsense word that Shanti and her husband and the other kids had no idea what it meant. But, Titu, at the end of his tantrums, he would always just start saying over and over again, Shurshverma, Shurshverma, Shurshverma. And so Shanti, she's in the hall and she's hearing Titu start to do that. And so on the one hand, she's thinking, okay, this tantrum's about to end. But on the other, she's like, I have no idea what that word means. It's obviously connected in some way to what's going on with my son, but I have no idea what it means. It sounds like nonsense. And so Shanti began yelling through the door at Titu to explain what Shurshverma meant, but Titu had no explanation. He just kept saying the word over and over again. Shurshverma, Shurshverma, Shurshverma. Shanti
They got going on here, my guy. What's going on here, my guy? Whatever they got going on here is some voodoo looking type shit. Like, ain't no telling, boy. For real.
Other kids. Titu was the youngest, and Titu was not like any of his other siblings. The other siblings did not throw temper tantrums like this, not at all. And in fact, Titu had been a difficult child even before he was born. Towards the end of Shanti's pregnancy with Titu, she'd become very, very sick, and in fact had to be hospitalized for the entire last trimester. And then as a newborn baby, Titu basically didn't sleep at all, and he cried constantly, and so Shanti and her husband initially thought, Titu must just be a very fussy baby. But in time, as he grew into more of a toddler, it was clear to Shanti and her husband that Titu was actually a different kind of kid. He seemed like a very unhappy and kind of angry kid who was permanently on the verge of crying or throwing a fit. But it wasn't until Titu began talking at around 2 years old that Shanti and her husband really started to become worried. Because the things Titu was saying as a 2-year-old were just not in keeping with what you would expect a 2-year-old to say. And I'm not talking about the nonsense word that Titu would use during his temper tantrums, Shurshverma. Basically, Titu would say things that seemed to indicate that he genuinely hated everyone in his family. Now, for context...
like, there's some different type of evil shit going on right here, my guy. He said, what? Hate his whole family. Like, what type of evil... Goddamn, what the hell? What?
To indicate that he genuinely hated everyone in his family. Now, for context, Shanti and her family were not poor, but they weren't rich either. They lived in a little concrete home, they didn't have a TV or a car, and all the kids wore hand-me-down clothes, and Shanti actually handmade her clothes and her husband's clothes. But the family always had enough food to eat, and they were educated, and they seemed happy enough. It's just that they didn't really have the ability to do anything extra, like above and beyond a modest life. And Titu had never known anything different. This was his life from the day he was born. But when he learned to speak at around 2 years old, it was like all Titu wanted to talk about was how crappy of a lifestyle their family lived. For example, when Titu's mom, Shanti, would put on one of her saris that happened to be ripped, A sari is a traditional garment in India. Titu would look at what she was wearing, and in toddler speak, he would tell her that she looked terrible and that it looked like she was just wearing rags. Titu would also walk around their
what? They used to say that? Hey, bro, this kid different, bro.
House, and he would point to spots in the house that looked dirty, and he would demand that somebody cleaned it up because he didn't want to live in a dirty house. And then whenever the family needed to go somewhere and they would walk there or take the bus there, Titu would complain the entire time that he wanted to be in a car, and why aren't we driving in a car? Like, why are we walking? Despite the fact that Titu basically had never used a car before. But perhaps the strangest aspect of Titu's behavior was around the time he began talking and insulting his family, he also began talking about this very...
Hey, hold on 1 second, y'all. I really need to blow my nose real quick, y'all. Like, it's getting stuffed up. Hold on 1 second, y'all. 1 second, y'all. There we go, y'all. My bad, y'all. I feel a lot better now. My bad, y'all. We back.
Very Around the time he began talking and insulting his family, he also began talking about this very historic city called Agra, which was located about 8 miles away from where they lived. Agra was famous for being home to the Taj Mahal, which is considered to be one of the most beautiful buildings ever made. Agra also has a very busy downtown and lots of tourism, but Titu had never been to Agra, and there was no reason he would be drawn to Agra, like his family had no connection to that city. But starting around the time Titu began talking at 2 years old, he began asking to go to Agra several times a week. And when his parents would say, no, we're not going to go to Agra, Titu would throw a huge tantrum. And so not long after Titu had begun speaking and saying all these terrible things, Shanti and her husband decided that really all they could do was just wait and hope their son grew out of this terrible behavior. But Titu did not grow out of this. Shortly after his parents decided to just kind of wait it out, Titu would randomly attack another small child with a sugarcane, and he beat the kid so badly the kid was bleeding at the end of the attack.
Whoa, hold the hell up. So now this nigga a mass murderer now, sitting here beating kids to death with what now?
And he beat out. Titu would randomly attack another small child with a sugarcane, and he beat the kid so badly the kid was bleeding at the end of the attack. And then also another time, shortly after the sugarcane beating, Titu was at the store with his mother, and his mom was looking at this bracelet, which she couldn't afford. She was just looking at it through the glass. And Titu sensed his mom wanted the bracelet, and in an odd show of affection for his mother, he turned to the shopkeeper, this little tiny kid who's not even 3 years old yet, and he tells the shopkeeper that if he doesn't give this bracelet to his mother for free, that Titu will shoot and kill the shopkeeper. And so after this, Shanti and her husband just stopped taking Titu out in public at all.
Hey, bro, yeah. At this point, you need to get this nigga a damn cage like my dog in or something, bro. Cause this nigga is crazy. What is he talking about, bro? Killing people and then over here just throwing temper tantrums. Like, you just... What the hell going on with this kid?
And so after this, Shanti and her husband just stopped taking Titu out in public at all. It was just too embarrassing.
Hey, I know this kid need a good ass, old-fashioned ass whooping. Whoop that ass.
But what really just unsettled Shanti the most about her son's behavior was that nonsense word that Titu kept saying at the end of all of his tantrums. Shursh Verma, Shursh Verma. And so fast forward to that day after he's broken the plate and now Shanti's put him in his room, Titu began saying that nonsense word, except he was getting a little bit older and his speech was getting a little bit more clear. And so as Shanti was laying up against the door, she realized that her son was not saying a single word, Shursh Verma, he was saying 2 words. They were Suresh Varma. But Shanti had no idea what that meant. She thought it sounded like a name, but it was a name she had never heard before. But one day, a few months after the dish-breaking incident, in April of 1987, all of Titu's very strange, erratic, terrible behaviors would erupt all at once. That April day started out like any other. Shanti made breakfast for her family, and then her husband headed out to do some errands, and her 6 children kind of dispersed around the inside and outside of the house to play, study, whatever. But Titu was really grouchy, and so he stayed inside in the kitchen with Shanti. A little while later, Shanti's oldest son came into the kitchen and he asked his mother, "Hey, when will Dad get back from his trip to Agra?" Shanti's husband had gone to Agra to run one of his chores, and Agra was the city that Titu was totally obsessed with. And so when Shanti's oldest son said the word Agra, Titu, who was sitting in the kitchen, he heard it and kind of looked up like he was totally fixated on their conversation. And then as Shanti and her oldest were talking about the dad, Titu just got up, left the kitchen, and he went to his room. He grabbed a couple of things, and then he came back into the kitchen carrying this bundle of clothes with him. And he walked right past his brother and his mother. He went out the front door and began running down the road without saying a word. Remember, this is like a 3-year-old child. This is not a teenager. This is a little kid. And so Shanti and her oldest son, they kind of watched in shock as Titu ran off down the road. And for a minute, neither of them did anything. And then it was like they broke out of their...
What the hell they mean they never did anything? Why y'all ain't going out your damn child? He's a 3-year-old child just running down the street. Like he already has something going on with him, and y'all just gonna sit there in shock? Go get your damn kid.
Trance, and the oldest son just turned and began running out of the house to catch up with Titu. Now, it didn't take long for the oldest to catch up with his young brother, but it was surprisingly hard to stop Titu from trying to run away. He fought back as hard as he could to keep his brother from pulling him back to the house. And then when the older brother got Titu back inside, Shanti looked at her older son and she saw he had a black eye from where Titu had just hit him. And when Shanti turned to Titu to try to get him to apologize to his brother for hitting him, she saw Titu was completely inconsolable. He was throwing a huge temper tantrum. He was on the ground kicking and flailing and screaming at the top of his lungs. And so Shanti and her oldest son knew there was no hope in getting him to calm down. He was deep into one of his tantrums. And so Shanti and the oldest just basically restrained Titu so he couldn't hurt himself or one of them or damage anything. And for a while, as they held him to the ground, Titu just continued to scream and flail and throw this fit. But eventually he did kind of calm down and he began saying Suresh Verma over and over again. But then he began talking about something that he really hadn't brought up before that stood out to Shanti and her oldest son. Titu, in addition to saying periodically Suresh Verma, also began talking about some radio store in Agra. And Titu kept saying, "Why didn't Dad bring me to the radio store? Why didn't he bring me?" And so as Shanti is listening to her son, she suddenly thinks, you know what? This is my chance. He's being so specific about this radio store. Maybe this is my opportunity to lean in and learn what the heck is going on with my kid. Right, and so once Titu fully stopped his temper tantrum and Shanti and her oldest could finally let go of him, once Titu had left the room, Shanti turned to her oldest son and she told him to go to Agra right now. Just go there and look for a radio store or something. Look for anything that could be a clue to what's going on with Titu. He obviously has some fixation with the city. Just go, look around, see if you can find something. So the oldest son left the house and he went to one of his friends' houses who had a car, and together they drove into Agra. Now, Shanti had no idea if her oldest son's trip to Agra would produce anything useful, but she figured, she's got nothing to lose. A few hours later, when Shanti's oldest son returned from Agra, he came into their home with a very serious look on his face. And right away, Shanti could tell, clearly, he's discovered something. And so Shanti asked her oldest son, tell me, what did you learn? What happened in Agra? And the oldest son, he looked down for a second, and then he looked back at his mom and he just said, "Tomorrow, we're gonna have visitors."
What the fuck you mean we about to have visitors, nigga? I ain't... No, the hell we ain't.
Are you a fan
of
the strange, dark, and mysterious? If so, yes, then you're in luck. Because our massively popular show, the Mr. Ballen podcast, which since the end of 2022 has been exclusively on the Amazon Music platform, is now available on all podcast platforms, and it's free. Fire. There are over 200...
Speaking of that, I need y'all to go subscribe to my second channel as well. Now, go second. I'm thinking about starting a Rumble. Bro, because let me know if y'all want that down in the comment section, bro, because YouTube been tripping lately, and I might got to go to Rumble for a backup. You feel me? But I'm gonna have my backup channel down in the description as well. So go follow me on there, man. Laugh with Swag when we posting content over there as well, man, because I need to start getting that ball rolling over there. Know what I mean? So help your boy out. You feel me?
100 episodes in the back catalog of this show. And of those 200, at least half of them have never been told on YouTube. They are only available on the podcast. And you can find those exclusive episodes by looking for the words podcast exclusive in the individual episode title. So again, the highly popular Mr. Ballen podcast is once again available on all podcast platforms, and it is free. To listen, just search for the Mr. Ballen podcast on Amazon Music or wherever else you get your podcasts, and then give the show a follow and then start your binge. Oh, and also, if you are one of the amazing people who subscribe to Amazon Music to follow the Mr. Ballen podcast when it went exclusive, don't give up your membership just yet, because there are still huge perks for listening to the show on Amazon Music. With your Prime membership, you can listen to new episodes of the Mr. Ballen podcast 30 days early and ad-free on Amazon Music. But again, the show is now available on all podcast platforms, and it really is free. So, thank you so much. Have a nice binge.
Yes, sir, man. Like, go support, man. Go support if y'all ain't already. Go ahead and support. And then how y'all gonna hit me with an ad right after that? Like what? Who does that? Like who does that? Like clearly on YouTube. Like what the fuck? What the fuck?
The next day, a car pulled up in front of Shanti's home, and 6 people climbed out. There was a woman wearing a beautiful red sari who appeared to be in her 30s, and then there were 3 other men who also appeared to be in their 30s, and they were all wearing suits and jackets. And there was also an older couple, a man and a woman, and the man was wearing this beautiful sweater, and the woman had on all this silk. It was clear, just from the way they looked, that these 6 people were not from this area. They were from somewhere else, and they had a ton of money. Now, Shanti was inside the house, and she was watching this group arrive, but she did not go outside to greet them. She, her husband, and all of her kids, minus Titu, had decided the night before, when they knew these visitors were going to arrive, that they wouldn't go out and talk to them. Instead, they would just allow Titu to basically make first contact with these people and see what happens. So when Shanti saw this group of 6 very well-off people were standing right outside of their gate, kind of waiting to be let in, she called for Titu and said, "Hey, go outside and open the gate for our guests." And so Titu, who was not throwing a fit at this point, he came running through the house and he went to the door. He's not looked outside yet. He opens up the door and he runs outside and he sees these 6 people on the other side of the gate. And suddenly Shanti heard Titu make a sound that he never made. It was like the sound of pure joy. He was so elated to see these 6 people. Shanti couldn't believe it. For a second, Shanti closed her eyes and almost started crying, because she knew, even before Titu had made that joyous sound when he saw these people, they were about to solve the mystery of what was going on with her son. Just then, Shanti heard Titu from outside yelling for Shanti and the rest of his family to come outside and meet his other family. Shanti went to the door.
Oh yes, and so like this is some ritual type some weird shit going on here. Like other family. Oh yeah, we about to get down to the nitty gritty on this.
And gestured for the guests to come inside, and then she led them through the house to the back deck. And then after they were all seated, Shanti looked over at her son, Titu, and she saw he had this huge grin on his face. He was so happy, and he was staring intently at the woman who got out of the car, who was in her 30s and wearing the beautiful red sari, and she was sitting right across the table from Titu, and Titu is just locked on her. Now, at this point, nobody is speaking. Everybody is just sitting there. No introductions have been made, so nobody even knows each other's names. And in this kind of tense...
So they're just sitting there, just in silence, just sitting there looking at each other. Like, what the
tense and awkward silence, Titu, who again is just staring at this woman in red, he eventually breaks the silence, the 3-year-old child, and he asks the woman in red to come sit next to him. So the woman in the red sari, she does what he asks and moves over and sits next to the toddler. And then Titu looked up at her and he smiled and he said, "Do you know who I am?" And the woman, she's looking down at him and she said, "No, I don't." And Titu would look back up at her and he would say, "I know who you are. You're Uma." And at this, the woman in red, whose name really was Uma, she gasped. She had no idea how this kid knew who she was. But before she could even say anything, Titu continued, and he said to her, "Hey, do you remember when we went to the fair with Ranu and Sanu, and I bought you those sweets?" And at this, the woman in the red sari, Uma, she had this new look come over her face. Instead of looking like she was just kind of shocked and appalled that this random kid knew who she was, now it was like a look of shocked recognition as she's looking down at Titu, like she suddenly understood what was actually going on. And at the same time, Titu's mother, Shanti, was watching this happen, and she was kind of piecing together what was really going on here, and suddenly she realized she needed to check something. And she got up and she ran out of the room, and she came back with scissors. And without saying anything, Shanti went straight to Titu, she pushed his head to the side, exposing his right ear, and she used those scissors and began cutting all the hair off his head that was kind of drooped over his right ear, kind of exposing the right side of his skull. And as the hair on Titu's head fell to the ground, exposing more and more of the right side of his head, all the adults watching just gasped. And the whole time, Titu was just smiling. To understand what just happened out on that back porch between these random people and Shanti and her family, you need some context. So here's what happened when Shanti's oldest son was sent to Agra to go investigate and look for clues that could explain what was going on with Titu. The brother and his friend had driven all around Agra, looking for radio stores and looking for things that might in some way kind of connect to Titu, and they didn't see anything. But at some point, they drove past one of the many radio stores in Agra, and the name of this radio store immediately stood out to the brother and this friend. So the older brother and the friend, they parked their car and they went into this particular radio shop, and inside of there is where they met Uma, the woman who had the red sari on, who was in her 30s, that Titu said we went to the fair together with, that woman. So she's inside this radio shop, and when the older brother asked Uma how this radio shop got its name, that was when things began to fall into place for this older brother about what was going on with Titu. Uma would tell the older brother that this radio shop actually belonged to her husband, except 3.5 years ago, he was murdered. He was shot and killed, and so she had been running the shop ever since. And Uma said she had considered changing the name of the shop, since taking it over, but she just couldn't bring herself to change it because the shop's name was actually based on her husband's name. The name of the shop was Suresh Radio Shop. Her husband's name was Suresh Verma. The two.
So is that why he was saying that in the beginning? Is like Suresh? Is it like Suresh Varma? Like, is that his like father or something? Like, or like great grandfather? Like, is that? I mean, like that's why he wanted to like go like to that place to get to the shop. I'm assuming right now. Now I'm saying he was so anxious because he wanted to go, but they wasn't letting him go. So he threw them a temper tantrum until yeah. Like it's all starting to come.
Suresh Radio Shop. Her husband's name was Suresh Verma.
Like that's why he was saying his name in the beginning of the video. Know what I'm saying? Okay.
The two words that Titu would say all the time at the end of his tantrums. Suresh Verma, Suresh Verma. That was Uma's husband. And it would turn out the details of Suresh's death matched up in a very bizarre way with Titu's birth. And all of Titu's totally erratic, strange, terrible behavior throughout really his entire life to this point now suddenly made sense if you knew about Suresh's life. Many people, including professors from major universities in India and America, have come to believe that what happened with Titu was when Suresh was murdered, his spirit somehow came out of his body and entered Titu's body. Basically, Suresh.
Whoa, huh? Whoa. I wasn't expecting to hear that one.
Now came out of his body and entered Titu's body. Basically, Suresh was reincarnated in Titu. This reincarnation theory would explain why Titu was always saying Suresh Verma.
Bro, I got a serious question for y'all, bro. Like, do y'all believe in reincarnation? Let me know down in the comment section. This is a serious question here, yo. Like how do y'all feel after death? Like, what's gonna happen after death, bro? Now, I know this could be a touchy subject for certain people, but for the ones who are confident in this type of, well, I wouldn't say confident, but just I'm like, what you guys believe in, bro? Like, do you guys believe in reincarnation? Do you guys believe we're gonna come back as something? Like, let me know down in the comments. This is a real question I would like to know, man, because I think about that shit all the time, bro. Like, what's gonna happen after we pass away? This, that, and third. Like where's our souls gonna go? Like, I think about this shit all the time, yo. I don't know why, I just do. Know what I'm saying?
This reincarnation theory would explain why Titu was always saying Suresh Verma, because in theory that was his real name. You know, that's the guy who died, who then his spirit transitioned to Titu, so he's saying his name over and over again. And then also Titu's obsession with Agra would make sense, because that's where Suresh's radio shop was and where he lived. Also, the reincarnation theory would explain why Titu was so critical of Shanti and the rest of his family's lifestyle, basically accusing them of being poor and kind of living below his station.
Right, and it all makes sense. It's all making sense now, bro. Because again, like, the old boy's family is stupid rich. Clearly, they got money, and clearly, you know what I'm saying, like, two of them family is really, really struggling. They're poor. They're damn near poor. Know what I'm saying? So it's like, oh man, like, and that's where the temper tantrums come from, because he's not like used to living in these type of conditions like he used to. Know what I'm saying? Oh yeah, it all makes sense.
Family's lifestyle, basically accusing them of being poor and kind of living below his station. Well, Suresh's family was very, very wealthy, and so that was the lifestyle Suresh had lived. And so if his spirit was now in Titu's body, he might be at odds with their lifestyle. And lastly, the reincarnation theory would explain the two very unique and very pronounced birthmarks that Titu had right next to his right ear. He had one right above his right ear and right below it. Now, these were birthmarks that Shanti was well aware of, but after...
Hey, like, do y'all got birthmarks? Like, where y'all birthmarking at, yo? Know what I'm saying? Like, where y'all birthmarking at? You know what I'm saying? Like, mine's is like, it's like the back of my thigh, kind of. Like, I'm not gonna show y'all. That's a dub. But y'all can tell me. I'm like, where y'all birthmarks at? You know what I'm saying? In the comment section as well.
She learned and right below it. Now, these were birthmarks that Shanti was well aware of, but after she learned about how Suresh Verma was killed, he was shot in the side of his head, and the bullet went in above his right ear and then came.
And that's why I was just sitting here thinking, bro, like, where did he get murdered at? And like, it all makes sense now, because when he got shot, the two bullet holes, and that's what... come on, man, it all comes
out
together.
On the bottom part of his right ear, right here. When she heard that, she ran and got the scissors. She cut the hair away around Titu's ear, revealing the two birthmarks. And then the other families saw those birthmarks, and they're like, oh my goodness, that is literally where the entry and exit wounds were on Suresh. And then also, it's worth pointing out that on the day Suresh was shot and killed, well, basically that day was when Titu's mother, Shanti, began feeling really sick during her pregnancy with Titu, and she had to be hospitalized. After this discovery about Titu and Suresh Verma, Shanti and her husband and the rest of her family expected Titu to want to live with Uma and his other family. And at first, that is what Titu wanted to do, but pretty quickly he actually decided that, you know what, I want to stay put with the family I was born into, and we can just visit with the other family. And so that's what they did. You know, Uma and the other wealthy family, they made visits all the time to see Titu and vice versa. You know, the families got along great. And as for Titu, you know, he was really happy. You know, his bad behavior basically went away, and he became a normal, high-functioning kid. And Titu has grown up and become a very happy and successful adult. He's got a family of his own, and he's currently a professor at a college in India.
That's fire, and he's doing good in life as well now. And the fact, again, the stuff that he went through as a child, and experiencing like the unfortunate, like, know what I'm saying, like, living situation that he had to go through in life, and then obviously with the wealthy family that he had again before, but he decided to stay with them because he already adjusted to it, and and they all came to agreements of them obviously still seeing each other, and everyone just being happy at the end of the day. And now he's a normal kid. He's successful in life. He's not throwing no more temper tantrums. Salute to him. Salute to the new families. Salute to y'all for even checking out this video with me, man, because it's good to be back, bro. It's good to be back with these videos, man. And Mr. Ballen don't never disappoint, bro. Come on.
In the very early morning hours of December 26th.
Hey, bro, shouts out. I'm pretty sure this probably one of his little joints. He just, yeah. Shouts out to Mr. Ballen, bro. Shouts out to y'all for checking out this video, bro. How do you guys feel about the video, man? And how do y'all feel about me being back for Scary Hour? Because you about to go crazy with the reactions now, man. So make sure you guys are locked in. Make sure you guys subbed up to your boy. If you are subbed and didn't get the notifications, just unsubscribe and then subscribe back to me, bro. And make sure you guys are tuned in tomorrow. I'm like rest in peace to Shima, Sheesh or something like that. Whatever his name is, bro. Like rest in peace to you, man. And make sure you guys are tuned in tomorrow when I drop another one, bro. I don't even know what to say, but I'm just so excited to be back doing some reaction, baby. And SRT gang, I am out this thing, man. Let's get it.